I think we're all there. We're ready to go. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will go through this. Hold on here. There we go. So we were in chapter 20, right? And so we had two problems left. We had problems 1A and 1B. And like I did with the earlier section of this class, we didn't really go through 1A in much detail just because it was pretty straightforward, right? It's either a fixed, it's a variable, or it's a mixed cost. Did anybody have any questions specific to 1A? And I can help or explain any of those A through T. Anybody? Bueller? All right, then let's move over to problem 2A. 2A, so this is on page 1038, and it basically just says here, Portman Company is operating at full capacity. And it says here, sold 1 million units at a price of $188 per unit. And then what they have there is what we would call our normal income statement, right? The normal looking income statement, sales less cost of goods sold. And then after your gross profit, you got your selling expenses and your administrative, and you get to operating income, okay? Just like what we've always known and what we've always seen. But then right below that, you see it says the division of costs between variable and fixed are as follows. So what they're saying is, and this is of course true for every company, that normal P&L that you see up there, sales minus cost of goods sold, all of those costs in there, some of them are fixed and some of them are variable. So what they're asking is to identify and isolate those costs into those two categories. And we can do so by looking at it variable or fixed. And the book tells you how much is variable and how much is fixed. So I'm not going to read that last paragraph of the problem. We'll get back to that here in a minute. But number one, it says determine the total variable costs and fixed costs. Well, in the book there, they tell you cost of goods sold is 70% variable, selling is 75% variable, and administrative is 50%. So here you go. See, we got all of our total costs. We took it times the variable percentages, and we can come up with our variable cost total. Well, if this was 70, that means this has to be 30%, right? So we can take 100 million less the 70 million, and you get 30 million, or 30% of that number, or 25% of that number is 4 million. 50% of 12 million is 6. So here is our variable cost calculations. Here is our fixed cost calculation. This problem didn't take it times the percentages, but just backed out the variable. So total minus variable is fixed. Any questions on number one? Then in number two, it just says determine the unit variable cost and the unit contribution margin. Well, that's no big deal. Again, well, the book told us they were selling for $188, right? So again, you could take the sales, that comes from the text. It says sales of 188 million. And right at the very beginning, it said 1 million units. Well, that's the 188. Well, now we can take this right here, the variable cost number, 88 million. Again, 88 million divided by the number of units is $88 per unit. So sales minus variable cost equals our contribution margin of $100. Okay, questions on part two? Part two. So the variable cost per unit is 88. The contribution margin is 100. Number three, it just says calculate or compute the break even in sales. So this is the calculation for break even point. Fixed costs, well, we know what that is. We just calculated that in number 1. Fixed costs divided by unit contribution margin, which we did here in number 2. So 40 million divided by 100 means we have to sell 400,000 units, and then we break even, or we equal zero operating income, okay? 0. So we sell, here's a question for you, anybody answer. If we sell 400,001, then how much is our operating income? Or how much that one makes, you bet. So it would be $100 right here, right? Because we know that's what we're selling it for, but this is the cost. Very good, Jackson. So what is our, if we sell 400,001, we make $100. We sell 400,002, we make $200. Very good. Number 4, it says compute the break even under this proposed program. So right above the instructions, there's that last paragraph that we didn't read. It says management is considering a plan expansion program for the following year that will permit an increase of 11,280,000 in sales. The expansion will increase fixed costs by 5 million, but will not affect the relationship between sales and variable costs. And what does that mean? It says this difference between sales and variable costs right here, that remains unchanged, and that would make sense. Sales and this relation to variable costs remains unchanged. So for number 4, what is our new fixed cost? Well, it was still the 40 million plus, according to the reading, another 5 million. It's still a unit contribution of 100. So now in order to get to cover 45 million, we need to sell 450,000 units. Number 5, it reads, determine the amount of sales that would be necessary under the proposed program to realize 60 million of profit. Well, remember when we did this last week, we said that target profit, all that is a higher hurdle. So we got to make that hurdle a little higher. So still our fixed costs plus the increase in our hurdle of 60 million, that still divided by $100. So 100 million divided by 100 is 1,050,000. 1,050,000. Okay. So now our new sales is 1,050,000. Number 6, determine the maximum operating income possible with the expanded plant. So here's number 6. So what we did is we took our sales of 188 million, that was in the book, plus the new, in the reading, 11 million more. And here's our fixed cost, which was the 40 million originally plus the new 5 million. And then the variable cost. This one right here we have to come up with. Well, if we are going to do another 11,280,000 in sales, we need to know how many units is that. Well, we divide that by the sales price right up here, the sales price. So if we take our 11 million new divided by the sales price of 188 bucks, that is 60,000 more units. So our original million that we were selling, according to our text, plus another 60,000, then we take our 1,060,000 times the variable cost is our 93 million. So sales minus fixed costs minus variable costs is our operating income of 61 million. Okay, questions on number 6. That one's probably the most involved. So look at here, we're down to operating income again, just like what you have in your textbook, right? 60 million versus 61 million, but they only lump it into 2 categories, fixed and variable, right? Fixed and variable, rather than doing less cost of goods sold, less selling, less administrative. We just have it in the two categories. And then number 7, it just reads, if the proposal is accepted and sales remain the same. And why is that such a great question? Who would love that question? The bank. The bank would want to know, we lend you another $5 million, and then your proposal doesn't happen. Something falls through. Where are we going to sit? Well, if we have currently, our operating income is 60 million, just doing exactly what we've done in the past, but now adding another 5 million in costs, we're still 55 million to the good. The banks would love to see this proposal because it shows we could still lend you all of that, and yet if everything falls through, of course you're losing 5 million, but you're still above water. Any questions on problem 2A? Anybody? All right. Well, then that pretty much takes care of what I wanted to cover today. It's a very short day for you today. It was problem 1A and 2A. I do intend to log in again on Thursday, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. So if you decide to join me on Thursday, it will be essentially just 2 things. You can come with any questions that you have over the chapters 15, 16, 17, and 20. And I'm going to go through the review sheet in more detail. I'll go through the review sheet. So that's the game plan for Thursday. The review sheet was emailed to you. But before we just go with that, Alana, can somebody confirm that that happened? Did you get an email from me with that or an attachment? Bryce, did you get an attachment by the way, or like an email or an attachment, even to like? No, I just want to. I said to Alana that I think I emailed it, but I don't want to assume that I. Okay. Okay. Then I will. Then that means it probably didn't happen. Email review sheet. You know, the one thing I found out even from the first section, what happened was I emailed it, or it was put into the attachment to this Microsoft Teams invitation. And then if you delete it, I don't think they told the USF students that anything you delete stays in your deleted file for like 2 days and then it's gone. So you can't go back. So keep that in mind for those of you that are out there, that if you delete something, I think it only sits in your deleted file for 2 days. They just changed that setting. At least that's what I've been told. I don't know if that's accurate. So the take-home exams are due on the 9th. So, and then we'll actually take this exam on Tuesday. And I'll send out more details about that. So it's exactly what you're used to. You got your 2 take-homes like you normally had, you know, where you have the problems, and then the in-class, if you will be through the LMS, and that'll be just multiple choice. Anybody got questions for me? Any questions at all? Okay. Well, then, if there are none, I'm going to let you go. We don't need to meet any longer, but on Thursday we'll meet again, and that's just those 2 items that we'll go over, and you'll get some details from me today about the next test, and we'll go from there. So, sound good? All right. Hey, you guys have a great day. If you can, try to get outside and enjoy the weather. Talk to you later. Bye.